Okay, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name's Shauna Puadine, and I'm from Cascade Centers, EAP. I'm joined by Kurt Badia at CLC, our partner for Identity Theft Solutions, and he is going to do an overview of what's available for your employees regarding ID theft. If you have any questions at all, feel free to type them in the box, and we'll do our best to get to those questions kind of throughout or at the end, just however time is available. But I'm going to hand this over to Kurt and we will get started.
Great. Well, thank you, Shauna, and welcome everybody. Probably as many of you know, what kind of drove the desire to do this website is related to unemployment fraud, particularly in the state of Washington and other states. There's been a significant issue and increase in fraudulent claims. That being said, what we're going to do today is kind of talk a little bit about just generally how does ID theft occur. We'll talk specifically about unemployment fraud. And then there's other types of fraud that's been going on related to COVID that we've been seeing. So touch on that as well, and then we'll go through what is available through the Cascade EAP benefit specific to ID theft resources. So when it comes to identity theft, the first thing that typically happens is their information is stolen, compromised. One of the ways that these get our information is breaches. So, this is the Equifax breach. That was probably the most severe breach that we've had to date. But there's been numerous breaches, some that make the news, some that don't. And then there's dark web. So when these breaches occur, usually the thieves will go and sell that data through the dark web. So there's fraudsters that are out there buying this data to use for purposes of committing crimes against us. Phishing, it's a little bit of a different spelling there, but that's where people get phone calls. Hey, this is the IRS. This is the unemployment office. I just need to verify if you filed a claim. And to get things started, I just need to, verify some information. Can I get your social security number? Perhaps they're trying to fish for money and they'll ask for a credit card number. Those kind of scams. Certainly, wallets and purses get stolen, and then we ourselves have been involved in many breaches. Very common breach that we get involved in is a work laptop, whether it's an HR laptop or something like that was stolen. Maybe a company's payroll was hacked into. So many different ways that the thieves get our information. The information that they're trying to get from us, is our personal information, date of birth, where we live, social security number. Social security number is probably the the gold, if you will, of information that they want to steal. I'll talk a little bit here in just a second. When they get this information, what are the kinds of crimes that they commit? What information do they use when they commit these crimes? Certainly trying to get our passwords to bank accounts and things like that. Our medical information, which basically means that they use our information to get medical care, and then we're stuck with with the bill, claims, those kind of things. So this is the kind of information that they're trying to steal from us. So when the thieves do get our information, what do they do with it? And before I kind of speak to this slide, as Shauna mentioned, I'm with CLC, and we actually do two things for Cascade and you. We do all the legal referrals, so we have a network, excuse me, throughout the entire United States and Canada that we make referrals to, and we've been doing that for a little bit over 30 years. And then for the last 15 years, we've been helping people that have been victims of identity theft. So we've been doing this for quite some time, and we've seen a variety of ways that these use our information for their benefit. So before I kind of go through this slide, there's typically two types of calls that we get. One is my information's been stolen. So that does not mean that you're a victim of identity theft. What that means is your information has been compromised. And when I get into the EAP resources, there's a specific path that we take when somebody's information has been compromised. It's more preventative. And then the other type of call is where I'm an actual victim of identity theft. And so, the thieves, if they can get our passwords, they'll, try to get in accounts, move money around, then get our, they'll steal our mail, and perhaps they get a credit card statement. A lot of credit card statements, have our account number on it. So they'll trying to find various ways to access account numbers, accounts, etc. Maybe they get our debit card number and start using that for their purpose. Probably the more popular one is lines of credit. So they get our information and they open up a credit card in our name. They might do that online. They might do that in store, like me. Apparently, I live out here in California. Apparently, I opened up a big lot credit card for $2,500 in Illinois about 2 months ago. So again, they did that actually in store, but I got it all resolved. Uh, right now, it's slowed down a little bit because of everything that's going on, but IRS fraud is something that has been increasing significantly the last 5, 6 years. Excuse me. So this is where the thieves file a false tax return and they get that rapid refund. And then, of course, you go in and file taxes, and the IRS is saying, hey, you've already filed taxes. So, again, because we've seen that, we know how to help people unravel all that. Employment fraud. This is where the Social Security number is gold. This is where they get a job but use your Social Security number. And then, of course, primarily what drove us getting together today is unemployment fraud. So the fraudsters are going online. They're filing for unemployment, and then they may or may not get money. And I'm going to talk about specifically unemployment here in a few slides. Specifically, what's going on, the problems that it creates for your employees, maybe former employees, and you, and what are things that you can do. And then fraudulent identification. This is where they get a driver's license under our name, or register a car under our name. And then synthetic identity. What that means is they have your name but somebody else's Social Security number, and they go ahead and open up accounts, and somehow these accounts get approved. The challenge is they're using a name over here and somebody else different Social Security number, and typically you have no idea that that's going on because you're not having the bills sent to you or anything like that, statements, those kind of things. So when they create these lines of credit, whether it's just using your entire information altogether or it's synthetic, they do their best to have statements mailed elsewhere, so you don't get a heads up that your information's been compromised. One thing that all of us on the call today should probably assume is that our information has been compromised. Again, that doesn't mean that we're a victim of identity theft related to the things that you're seeing on your screen, but we should all assume that our information has been compromised. Whether we know about it or not, that's a different story. But with all the breaches that have happened in this country, it's pretty safe to assume that at some level your information's been compromised. And we get into the EAP resources. We'll talk about some preventative steps that you can do that are just kind of good general practices to, as best you can, prevent yourself from becoming a victim of identity theft. So again, this is what the thieves do. So when it comes to unemployment fraud, and again, I know this is perhaps what brought many of you to this call today. So typically what happens is the fraudsters go online and they file a claim. The FBI, particularly for the state of Washington, they believe it was a Nigerian crime ring. So a lot of this online fraud is not done here in the U.S. It's done in other parts of the world. And one of the unfortunate things is we can't go after the fraudsters in Nigeria, let alone have them prosecuted. So there's not a whole lot that we can do to go after the individuals that are doing this. It's more, what do we do to, get this cleaned up, get it removed from my credit report, etc. So as many of you probably know, it's filed online. They notify the employer, and then typically there's 7 days for the employer to respond. What we believe is happening in talking to some folks like you is that they're being inundated with these requests, and maybe they don't respond in time, and so the the unemployment check is starting to be sent to whatever bank account is submitted. So anyways, this is the things that we're seeing. So there's two types of unemployment calls that we're getting. One is somebody found out that there was a claim that was open. That doesn't mean that the claim has been approved. They just got wind, whether it's from folks like you notifying a past or current employee that a claim has been opened. Maybe they were notified, whether it's email, mail from the unemployment needing some additional information. So there's some kind of what we're kind of more calling some red flags that might identify that there's some fraudulent activity going with the filing of unemployment. If the claim gets approved, obviously the individual that is, if they truly filed themselves for unemployment, they're not going to get any money until this is resolved. You might start getting some things from the IRS, Form 1099-G, et cetera. So these are the things that are kind of going on. What can you do is obviously when you do get these, notify the employee. We're going to be providing to you a copy of this PowerPoint deck, and then Cascade and CLC, we put together a informational piece for all of you that you can distribute. So it'll kind of talk about what's going on. There's a ton of self-help information on what to do, how to contact the unemployment office, fraud division, and try and get this resolved. What are some other things that you could do, and then also explains what's available through the Cascade EAP benefit. So again, when an employee calls us to use the EAP benefit, we're trying to find out has a claim been approved or not, and then that'll kind of dictate where we go as far as helping them resolve this, prevent further action from occurring. So some other things that we've been seeing related to COVID is email phishing. So this is where that you get an email and they want you to verify something about you, where they can get maybe an account number, date of birth, social security number, that type of thing. I'm not going to go through all of this, but as far as all of us online, when we're getting emails that we don't recognize or maybe getting through our spam filter, we want to be very careful before we respond or maybe even open up emails that we don't know the sender and all that. Phone phishing is also occurring, and I'll kind of speak to that when I get into charitable donations. But with phone phishing, the things that we see is they're pretending to be the IRS. They're pretending to be unemployment from the unemployment office, and they just need to verify this is you. And again, they're asking for social security number, date of birth to quote unquote, verify that they're speaking to the right person. They phone phishing. They really try to prey on our seniors. Literally just happened to my dad 3 weeks ago. This is a very, in my opinion, a very cold, heartless thing that they're doing, but they're getting a hold of grandparents. And they say that my nephew, his name is Derek, and they called and said, hey, Derek has been arrested. We need you to wire money to us right now. They pretend to be a law firm. They pretend to have Derek speaking in the background saying, Grandpa, please help me, I'm scared. Obviously, it shook my dad to the core. Thankfully, got a hold of my sister, and of course, we knew it was a scam at that point. So these thieves and criminals are doing everything they can to get us to release information, account numbers, make payments to, in this case, pay for attorney's fees for my nephew. So again, whether it's email or phone, we want to be very, very careful and cautious before we give out any information. Charitable donations, people pretending to be with the, American Red Cross, or they're with the pandemic relief organizations, crowdfunding where they're trying to raise money to pay for somebody's treatment or care or whatever the case may be. With charitable donations, when I do get calls, because I'll usually Google the phone number, or I'll ask for the phone number and Google it while I have them on the phone, just to see if this is legit or not. A lot of times it's not. So they've gotten better with disguising it with the area code that you live in, so you'll at least pick up the phone. It's not this restricted or an 800 number. So what we've learned is the thieves' jobs is to get around all these firewalls, if I can call them that, to where we wouldn't pick up the phone to where we do. So some other things you can do is obviously check with Better Business Bureau, et cetera. And then the last thing is obviously more and more people are shopping online. And so, we're certainly seeing mail theft, where maybe they get into your mail box, and that's where they're looking for credit card statements and, that type of thing. Obviously, they're stealing packages, which does have our name and address on it. They do what's called shipping box swap. So they'll see a box on the doorstep and they'll replace it with an empty box. So if you do have like security cameras or something like that, it'll appear that the box is still there and it hasn't been removed from your property. And then these are also casing houses where they will put cameras, say, across the street, and they're trying to monitor when you leave. And if packages due to get delivered, they know that it's probably safe. So some of the things that we're recommending is, particularly like with credit card statements and statements that might have account numbers and personal information, is to consider going to electronic mail. And then obviously if you're having things delivered to your house, watch for tracking updates. Certainly I think Ring and those kind of cameras and services are becoming more and more popular, to, as best we can, be aware of what's going on, with package deliveries or just the overall safety of our house. So the things that I was just talking about, these are the things that we've seen increase in the types of calls that we're getting. We're still getting our other calls around, they open up a credit card under my name, but these are the things that seem to be kind of specific, and there's been an uptick since COVID and stay at home has been put in place. So again, that's kind of what we've been seeing. So what I'd like to do now is shift to what services are available under Cascade. So as I mentioned, we've been providing identity theft restoration recovery services for over 15 years. We're very blessed, but we have a very good reputation in the industry for doing really good quality work and helping victims in their time in need and all that. So with respect to what is available now to your covered employees, is they call Cascade. Cascade does some intake, and then they're warm transferred over to us. They'll either be warm transferred directly to what we call a fraud resolution specialist, or if you prefer, identity theft specialist. If one is not available, usually we're returning their calls within 1 to 2 hours. Our goal is to call everybody back by close of business. So what this benefit does is it provides an hour of free identity theft counseling. And as I mentioned, we get two types of calls. One is preventative. So my information has been compromised. I just received a notification from a current or previous employer that an unemployment claim has been filed. And so we're going to walk through what are the things that you can do to, in this case of unemployment, try and stop the claim from being processed. We're also going to talk about just overall general preventative steps. So on this flyer that we'll be sending to you, It outlines a number of things, and I'll speak to some of them here on the next slide. The other type of call that I mentioned is somebody's an actual victim. So the thieves were able to successfully, you know, get unemployment benefits. They were able to open a line of credit, etc. So what we're going to do with that type of call is go more into restoration mode. How do we restore your good name? How do we, get this taken off the books, off your credit report, and that type of thing. So once we've identified kind of what is going on, then what our team is going to do is they're going to outline the action steps that you need to make. So for unemployment, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, we're going to direct them to call the unemployment fraud department, go online to report the fraud. Unfortunately, we don't really have a timeline of how quickly they're going to respond. As probably all of you know, unemployment offices have been bombarded, and so their time to respond is not ideal right now. So unfortunately, we just have no control over that. But we'll do our best again to direct somebody on what they need to do. And then we'll also, if we need to have them talk to, let's say it's a line of credit that was open, how to call and speak to the fraud department, not just the frontline customer service, but call here, do this. Nowadays, unfortunately, the burden of proof is on victims to prove that they did not open up an account. 10 years ago, it was pretty easy to call Visa, DirecTV, and say, hey, I didn't open this up. They're like, okay, sorry, we'll close down the account. You don't owe any money. Unfortunately, a lot of people are claiming to be victims of identity theft to get out of debt. Again, whether it's cell phone bills, credit cards, or the like. So there's more hoops that a victim has to jump through to, again, prove. So we're going to outline what that looks like. Typically, you do have to submit an affidavit, a challenge letter of some type. So we're going to provide them samples of what those look like, what to do with them, etc. If by chance it turns into a collection or a criminal matter, so somebody opens up a line of credit and now it becomes a collection issue, we will get you to an attorney to have a free consultation as to how do you address that. If it's IRS fraud, we do have tax professionals that can also be brought in to further explain how to resolve those kind of things. So it's got a few different layers of services depending on what's going on. If this is kind of a garden variety, typically the hour consultation with us outlining what we need to do, providing supportive documents, usually that's going to be sufficient for the victim to get this resolved. If it's very complex, like employment fraud, or the fraudsters opened up 10 credit cards under your name, which we've seen happen, we will still outline what you need to do. Or if you'd like, you can actually hire us. It's a flat fee of $850, and we do all the work on behalf of the victim. So we're the ones that are notifying or reaching out to the fraud department. We're the ones writing the challenge letters. If it gets into opposing counsel, we will have those discussions with them. So there is additional resources if somebody needs it. When that call is completed, usually the emergency response kit is sent out. So again, if we're recommending preventative steps like credit freeze and that type of thing, this will outline a lot of the things that we recommend, sample dispute letters, etc. So this benefit should put somebody in a very good place to resolve or get resolved their identity theft matter. So people typically ask, who is the team. So some of these designations probably won't mean a whole lot unless you're in our industry. But if I can kind of summarize this page, these folks are kind of the equivalent of a paralegal. So they're very skilled at what they do. They understand, how to kind of work with opposing counsel, how to help an individual, submit a dispute letter and things like that. As I mentioned, we do have some tax professionals if it's an IRS matter that can get involved. So in this flyer that's going to be made available to all of you, there are some self-help tools. So if you're getting claims, you're like, what should I send to them? The Cascade flyer is probably a pretty good piece that you can send to them. One of the pages, the second page, actually has self-help tools. So we're instructing people on how to contact the unemployment fraud if we're doing it over the phone, or this document will explain how to do that. We always recommend that you check your credit reports for fraudulent accounts. How to when we say set up an account with Social Security Administration, how you can set that up so nobody else can go and set one up under false pretenses. We may recommend fraud alerts or credit freezes and kind of explain the differences between those two and kind of how they work. We do recommend that you look at a credit or identity monitoring type service. So what these services do, if somebody applies for credit, you're going to get a text or an email typically notifying that an application has been submitted for what happened with me with I forgot the name of the retailer right now, apologize. So I'm aware that there's something going on. Identity monitoring is now more commonly referred to dark web monitoring. So there's services out there that as best they can monitor data that's been sold on the dark web, and they're matching it against the information that they're receiving. And again, they'll send an alert. Set up authentication on financial accounts. You can set up with the IRS where you got like a password that's submitted with your taxes. Check system alerts. So this document that we're going to be giving everybody will go into more detail of actually how to do these things and some additional things. And then lastly, as part of the EAP benefit, if you or any of your employees are inclined to, there is a free breach scan tool that's available through Cascade. And you can do one of two things. If you want to do a dark web on your Social Security number, you can do that. I'm not going to go into details, but I'm going to share everybody the link. But basically, you kind of set up an account. You put in your Social Security number, you hit run, and then you're going to get back an ID threat score. If it's medium or high, then you'll call into us and we'll go into details about what's going on. You can also do an email breach search tool. You don't have to do your Social Security number, but if you just want to do your email address. And so what this is doing is it's scanning your email to see what breaches your email address. So when I use mine, 8 show up. LinkedIn was the one that was the most notable. Yahoo, excuse me, and then there were like 5 or 6 others. I had no idea who they were, but in this report, it's going to tell you what information was compromised with that breach. So it might say email name only, email name, address, date of birth, etc. And then through Cascade, there is the ability to do tri-bureau credit and dark web identity monitoring. And because of everything that's going on, we've deeply discounted that for Cascade and its clients. So just to finish, how do you get a hold of these services? So for identity theft, you simply call Cascade or instruct employees to call Cascade. Again, they'll do a brief intake, get you over to us, and then we'll get you over to the fraud team for the free consultation. And then if you want to do the free scan, simply go to covid.clcidprotect.net and then just kind of click the start here. Excuse me, and then it'll take you through the steps if you'd like to do the email or the Social Security number scan. So this is the information that we were looking to go over. And Shauna, I don't know if you've got anything to add. And right now, I don't see any questions in the chat box, but I'll turn it back over to Shauna and the audience to see if there's any questions.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much, Kurt. I don't see any questions yet, but yep, to access, just give us a call at Cascade Centers and we'll get you connected with CLC for those services. After this call, we will also be sharing the flyer that Kurt referenced with more information along with a copy of these slides as well. So if you'd like to take a look at that, please feel free to. And definitely let us know if any questions are coming in. We'll also be sending a survey at the end of this presentation, so please take a moment and fill that out as well. If any questions come up after that you have, just you can type them in there or let us know too at Cascade, and we'll be sure to get back to you with those answers. And with that, I think we are all done. Thank you so much, Kurt. Appreciate all the wonderful information and resources that you shared today.
Great. Well, Shauna, thank you very much, and wish everyone well. And like Shauna said, as you receive the information, if there's any questions, you can get them over to Cascade, and I'll forward them to me, and either I can reply or get the identity theft manager to help out with the response. So again, thank you very much, and hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, Shauna.
Bye-bye.